afternoon and welcome to the Federal Youth Network's virtual learning series. Alors bonjour et bienvenue aux séries d'apprentissage virtuel du réseau des jeunes fonctionnaires fédéraux. Et puis aujourd'hui, on va discuter de Passons au numérique, 10 choses que tu peux faire pour devenir davantage numérique. So today we'll be talking about Let's Get Digital, 10 things you can do to be more digital. Thank you, Marcella, for the excellent intro song. I think that was fantastic in terms of, a tangential link to Olivia Newton-John's work. I'd like to mention that I'm joining you from Ottawa, which is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. I would also like to recognize that many of you are joining us from other traditional territories all over the country. So always good to take a moment to reflect on that. Joining us today is Isa David, who is with the Digital Academy. And I think this is is this our third or our fourth webcast? Second? Okay, well clearly this will not be the last webcast then, Isa. Alors merci Isa David pour nous joindre aujourd'hui du Académie numérique. Et puis Isa va partager son expérience et puis son connaissance sur comment vous pouvez devenir plus numérique ou plus avancé dans votre apprentissage des sujets de la numérique. So I will pass it over to Isa, and then we will go to a question and answer period after Isa's presentation. And if you would like to ask any questions, you can do so using the Q&A function and the chat. The Q&A is the easiest way if you have a question. And if you have a comment, please feel free to share it in the chat. If you have any thoughts or great insights that you'd like to share online, please feel free to do so using the hashtag FYN virtual, or en français, RJFF virtuel. So over to you, Isa.
Thanks, Josh, for the warm welcome, and welcome to everybody joining the session today. Thank you for being here. Welcome. Bienvenue à tous. Alors, aujourd'hui, on va parler de 10 choses à faire pour être plus numérique. So 10 things you can do to be more digital. And I promise you, these are very concrete and feasible actions that you can start applying right after the session. I really hope that you'll enjoy these tips and tricks that I have for you. First, so my name, as Josh said, is Isa David. I'm with the CSPS Digital Academy. I've been with the Academy for 2 years now, and I'm a senior learning specialist, which means that my full-time day job is designing and delivering learning products around digital. So you're going to get some of my best stuff today, I promise. Je vous invite à poser des questions dans la langue de votre choix. You can feel free to send them in chat. I've got an eye on chat, and Marcella can also feel free to interrupt me at any time if there's any burning questions. But we should also have enough time at the end of the session for an Ask Me Anything type period as well. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of an icebreaker here. We're going to do a little bit of a poll. I want you to look around at the icons that you see on the screen there. And I want you to tell me, how many of these do you think you know? Not just recognize, but would be able to explain to a friend or a colleague what these apps or technologies do. So Marcella, if you want to launch the poll, I want to get a little bit of a feel here. Do you know, I'm sure you know at least one of them, if either through your professional or personal life, but do you know 25% of these? Do you know half of them? Do you know 80%? Maybe you know all of them. Just give me a little bit of a pulse here as to how many of these you would say, you would guesstimate that you know, or and would be able to explain to someone.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll in 5 seconds.
And I can't see I think I'll be able to see the results once you close it off. There you go. Perfect. I see some answers coming in. So a lot of 25%, some 50%, some 80%. That's pretty good. Okay. So very interesting. Thank you for responding. Really, the goal here is not to test who's most techie in the crowd, but knowing how many of these tools or apps that you know maybe gives me a sense of, and gives you a sense of how willing you are to learn about these things, to experiment, to be curious, and to explore them either on a personal or a professional level. It shows how prone you are to this experimentation. A big part of being digital. It's not about the technology. It's not about understanding how, things like artificial intelligence or machine learning work. But if you include technology in your daily habits, that's part of being digital. It also, so what we're going to explore is not really focused on the technology, though I will recommend a few different tools throughout the session, but it's really about understanding the behaviors that are attached to being digital, to working and living in a digital era. These 10 concrete actions that I'm going to talk about are very closely related to the GC digital standards. Now, I think in the participants panel, you have a yes or no button, so you can let me know if you've ever heard of these. If you have not, then you're going to walk away with 11 things to do today, because I highly recommend that you Google GC digital standards, and that talks about these a little bit more in detail. These are ways of working in Government of Canada today. So if you haven't learned about these yet, I highly recommend that you do. And I really appreciated kind of putting this session together, because these standards in my team, we live and breathe by as much as we can every day. Thank you for putting the link in chat, Marcella. And so putting together this presentation allowed me to kind of really isolate those actions that are embedded in the digital culture of my team throughout our work on a daily basis. So many of the calls to action that I'm going to be presenting today, as I said, really rely a lot on these digital standards. So let's dive into these popcorn style. Feel free to submit any questions in chat at any time, and I will get to them as soon as I can. So number one thing that you can start doing to be more digital, this may surprise some of you, but it's to start blogging. Working in the open by default is one of the most foundational values of the digital culture and one of the standards that I just mentioned. And blogging is a really great and really easy way to do that. So next time you finish a project, think about, what did you learn from that experience? What might you do differently next time? What are some of the big or small winning outcomes? What could someone else benefit from reading a blog about this experience? So myself, when COVID hit, it gave me an opportunity to help others with my own superpower, which happens to be virtual facilitation. So first thing I did, not being someone on the front lines, not being really able to have an impact in terms of service to citizens, I knew by writing a blog on virtual facilitation best practices that I could help my colleagues out there who now had to start converting to virtual environments to deliver training or for meetings and things like that. When I designed my first course using agile instructional design methods, it was an experimentation for myself, and I learned a lot about that. And so I wrote a blog about it, and it, I'm sure, helped other people kind of discover other ways of going about instructional design, for example, versus a more waterfall approach. So blogging should be a positive and constructive way to celebrate wins, to share lessons learned, to share your knowledge, your superpowers, your expertise. So I really, really encourage you to write a blog next time. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be very short. And there's actually, you know, I put in the slide some little icons there for some platforms that you can use, like Medium and Blogger. They're free. Blog on platforms like GC Connects or GC Collab, but there's a new trend now, which is blogging through Twitter. So you can have literally a tweet and start a thread with you know, all of your thoughts in that same thread. And so, you know, naturally, privacy and security rules always apply. But that being said, there is likely something that you can share about the work that you're doing, and you can help others, you know, and avoid making those same mistakes, or avoid starting from scratch. Or it's an opportunity where people will reach out to you and want to collaborate with you. So I really encourage that as a first step. John saying TikTok, sure, that's, yeah, video blogging, vlogging, right? Absolutely. I actually did something similar. I'm in Quebec City, by the way. And when the government announced that that Quebec was going to start using the federal COVID app, there's a lot of people who had questions about privacy and all these things. And I did a video post on my Facebook page and explained how it works. And so it's the same concept. Personal life, private life, I have those same reflexes. And so I encourage you also to develop those. And John saying hashtag GC Digital. Yeah, after I write a blog, the first thing I do is I share it on Twitter, and I include the GC Digital hashtag most of the time. So it's a great way to find them as well. Awesome. So number 2 on my list would be to create a personal Kanban. Créer un Kanban virtuel. Si vous ne savez pas c'est quoi, c'est très simple. C'est un tableau avec 4 rangées. Une rangée va être une accumulation de toutes les choses que vous avez à faire. On a tous 10 000 tâches qu'on a à faire qui reposent dans notre tête, qu'on a peur d'oublier. On oublie des détails. Alors, avoir un Kanban où vous pouvez vous créer votre liste de choses à faire, my to-do list. Ensuite, l'autre rangée, c'est qu'est-ce que j'ai? 3, maximum 5 priorités. If you've got 20 things in your doing list, you've got too many. You're not being productive. So shorten that list to 3, maybe 5 things if you're juggling a few things, and track that in the doing list. La 3e rangée, c'est les choses qui sont peut-être en révision ou dans les mains de quelqu'un d'autre. Puis, il y a la rangée des choses qu'on a terminées. C'est le fun de prendre ces items-là puis les mettre dans la rangée des choses qui sont terminées, done. vous pouvez avoir votre propre Kanban personnel. Vous pouvez utiliser un outil comme Trello, it's my favorite. Il y a Jira aussi qui offre ça gratuitement. Mais vous pouvez aussi utiliser vous pouvez créer un comme celle que vous voyez dans l'image et vous pouvez par la suite faire une image en fond d'écran sur votre ordinateur. Puis vous pouvez utiliser les post-it sur Windows pour faire vos tâches puis les changer de colonne à chaque fois. So you can do this personally. You can have your own me, myself, and I Kanban board, and it'll really help you not worry about forgetting something. What am I forgetting today? What do I have to do today? And putting yourself in that mindset. You open your Trello, you know what you're doing, you don't forget things, you can label them, you can put reminders and deadlines on them, you can have some tasks assigned to other people, you can add a link, you can add a document. So for any, so you have the personal one, but then for a project, un projet d'envergure, vous pouvez aussi avoir un Kanban par projet. Right now, I don't know if any of you are registered for the Apolitical Bootcamp, but that's my baby right now. And let me tell you, there's a lot of details and a lot of stuff to manage. And there's actually a representative of just about every province working on the project with me from a provincial perspective. So I only have one link to give all of those people. I only give them the Trello board for the whole boot camp, and they have a one-stop shop to go to add resources, to see, you know, what's going on this week, what are the deadlines, what am I tagged on, how can I contribute, and all of the links that are important to the project. They can go to this one space to collaborate with me on this project. These boards can be private or they can be public. So in Trello, some of my past projects are public. So people can still go and see some of the artifacts from those projects. This is by far one of my favorite to-dos, and I'm a huge Trello user, a huge Trello fan. It's funny because I actually have a colleague yesterday who was telling me that he has a fridge Kanban. So on his fridge, he has Post-it notes. And I'm like, I gotta start doing that with my kids. Like to do, doing, done. I need that in my personal life too, I think. So Anne is asking if they're free. They have free versions and paid versions. So the free is that you have a limited number of boards that you can use. And you know, I forget the number, but a minimum of 3 that you can have running for different projects. And we actually have a team subscription in my team. I believe we still have it, and because we're fairly active users of Trello. But as I said, there's free options. You can do a desktop version and use the sticky notes in Windows and have your Kanban directly on your desktop. So if you Google Kanban boards for free, you'll probably be able to find a few different platforms out there, but Jira and Trello are 2 of the most popular ones, I think, as well. Okay, awesome. And I will have a list of some of the tools that I'm mentioning. Don't worry, at the end, there is a full list of all of these little tools that I'm gonna talk about. The third tip is build your network. Get out of your silos. Stop, you know, being one brain on whatever you're working on. Start building a network. Leverage things like, of course, GC Collab, GC Connects, but Slack, there's government. I'm in this really great digital government Slack space right now with, you know, hundreds or thousands of public servants at different levels, different jurisdictions, who get together and whenever they have a question or they're looking for a resource or a whatever, they have a community that they can go back to and ask a question or share stuff. Twitter is the same thing. I've built a huge network through Twitter, and I do most of my learning through Twitter. That's probably my favorite place to know what's going on in other departments, to read a great blog, to read an article, and to just reach out and connect with other public servants, but not just public servants. So building a network is super important. It's learning for free, learning at your fingertips, finding ways to collaborate. It's a great way to do a call out. Hey, I'm working on this great project. Chances are there's someone else out there who's interested in working on that with you, or who may be a stakeholder, or maybe has done something similar that they can share back. So I highly recommend that you do call outs, you give feedback, you ask for feedback, you share resources using your networks. And I promise you, you will learn from others in doing so. Yeah, Marcella, just also, yeah, look on, if you're very new at this, start with a safe space. GC Connects, GC Collab, you know it's meant for public servants. Do a search for your department, search for, you know, if you work in HR, search for HR, policy, whatever you work in, do a search and find communities of interest to you and that are closely related to what you do. Trouver, puis commencez à suivre. Vous n'êtes pas obligé de participer activement dès le début, mais commencez à suivre les discussions, à naviguer un peu le contenu, puis vous allez développer ces réflexes-là, ces habitudes-là avec le temps. Numéro 4. Commencez avec un prototype ou avec une vol peut-être ou un ébauche de votre prochain projet, votre prochaine tâche. We love to just do. You know, I got a deck to put together, I open PowerPoint and I do. I have a report to write, I open Word and I do, right? We're very action oriented and it's got to go fast, and prototype or an outline, that's just gonna slow me down. Now, start with something very unpretty, something very summative. And, you know, don't put too much effort on building the thing until you have a clear outline or a very quick sketch or prototype of whatever you're doing. And when I'm saying this, that includes a report. That includes, you know, a deck or a presentation or whatever you do. Find a way to start very small, put it out there. In my team, we ask regularly for feedback from other people because we believe in, you know, we're better as multiple brains than just one brain. And so if I put something out there in Slack to my team and I ask for feedback and it's too pretty or it's too perfect, and it's very evident that I've spent hours on this or days before getting feedback, I'll get my hand slapped because I invested too much time and energy before getting early and quick feedback. And then I know I'm on the right track, or somebody else has a really great idea and kind of makes me pivot or shift in my approach. Then I know the way forward. That's a better way, because gone are the days where, you know, we build the thing until it's perfect because we're the government of Canada, so we can't not be perfect. And we don't want to be judged by our supervisor or our colleagues that this thing is not perfect. We're going to build the thing perfect, and invest a lot of time in it. Then we're going to put it out there and we're going to wait for the feedback. Sometimes it's like, hey, great job. Or, I have a better idea. Or this is actually really not what I asked for. So start small, put a watermark, draft, create a safe space. This is not perfect. I know it's not. Starting small. I just want really, really early feedback from you, including outside of your team. You know, I have colleagues or contacts at Ontario Digital Service or BC Gov or in another branch in my department or whatever. But I know that they're the right people to just approach and say, hey, I could use some feedback on this. Peux-tu m'aider? Peux-tu me donner tes idées? Donne-moi un petit peu de rétroaction. And it's just going to be that much better when you build the final thing, I promise you. So work that into, you know, when we talk about behaviors, these are reflexes, these are muscles that you really want to start and developing. And so every time it just becomes built into how you approach a new project or a new task, for example. Okay, let's move on to number 5. Organiser une rétrospective pour votre projet. Je parle de projet, peut-être que vous ne travaillez pas sur des projets, c'est correct. Ça peut être autre chose. Mais lorsque vous passez du temps d'envergure sur quelque chose, ça vaut la peine de peser sur pause, d'arrêter, puis faire une rétrospective. Pensez à comment ça a été. Ça a-tu bien été? Est-ce qu'on est satisfait du projet? Est-ce que si on avait à le refaire une autre fois, est-ce qu'il y a des choses qu'on ferait différemment? Qu'est-ce qu'on changerait? Qu'est-ce qu'on améliorerait? Prenez le temps d'arrêter et de réfléchir avant de peser sur Start ou Go, puis d'avancer sur la prochaine tâche. Ça peut être fait en personne un jour, on va pouvoir le refaire aussi en personne, mais ça peut très bien être fait en virtuel. Dans mon équipe, on utilise des outils comme Miro, FYN Retro, Google Jamboard. Ça, c'est nos outils préférés pour faire des rétrospectives en tant qu'équipe, soit des grosses équipes ou des fois, c'est juste 2-3 personnes. It's important to stop and pause and reflect on how that went, how we would do things differently, how we would improve. And you could even create an artifact from that project. You can create a one-pager, or the Jamboard that you used, or the Miro that you used becomes an artifact, a living artifact that people can then go back to next time you do something similar. So retrospectives are important. I never said that the 10 things I was going to give you means that you can do things always faster. Digital does not mean faster. Sometimes it does. But it's important to pause and stop and do things in a certain fashion. And reflecting is also part of the digital culture. So again, this is something that I highly recommend, and it'll allow you to just iterate, iterate and improve frequently is another standard. So in order to be able to iterate and improve the next thing, you need to stop and think about how that could be better work. And you need to think about that with other people. It's not just, me, myself, and I'll reflect in my head for 10 minutes and done. Doesn't work that way. And I encourage you to have a multidisciplinary approach to these retrospectives. So include the, the IT guy, the programmer, or the, whomever had a stake, a part. Include management too in those retrospectives, and get really a full picture of how that went. How did that project go? Okay, let's move on to number 6. adopt an accessibility checker. Yeah, so one of the standards, as you know, is to include accessibility from the start. That does not only pertain to the IT guy or gal. It does not only pertain to building websites or apps. It pertains to you as well. So back in the day, we used to be able to say, I'm not an IT specialist. I don't get this accessibility stuff. And, you know, pass it on to the next Joe or Joanne to figure out. Not an excuse today. So even if it's a PowerPoint, even if it's a Word document, or even if you're looking at adopting great new tools like Zoom, take the time to reflect on the accessibility part. Most of us were lucky enough to recently inherit Office 365. If that's the case, then you have a really great accessibility checker built right into PowerPoint. It's actually in our 2013 versions as well. You just have to dig in to kind of check the box for that tool in your ribbon. But even if it's a document that's not going further than your team, you never know where it's going to end up. And just taking the time to check your accessibility, you're going to learn how to, it's going to flag some issues, and you're going to learn how to fix those issues. So today, when I put together a presentation like this one, by default, I go in and I add alt text to describe the image that I added. I, by default, consider the contrast in the colors that I'm using. By default, I think of colorblind people where, you know, I'm not going to put something like click on the red button. I don't do those things by default because I've worked in these good habits with regards to accessibility. You know, I reduce clicking. I use plain language. There's, you know, when we talk about accessibility, we're not just talking about deaf or blind. We're talking about, you know, a whole, and we even talk about inclusivity these days to go even larger than just checking an accessibility box. So by doing this, working this into the next thing that you build and being curious about it and starting to learn, you're going to flex those muscles. So the next thing you build, these things you'll be reflecting on by default as well. There's also a great app called HemingwayApp.com where you can put in the text from whatever you're working on, and it'll tell you the reading level of the language that you're using, because we usually aim for a grade 9 level when we talk about plain language. And so it'll tell you this is the level of the language that you're using and can help make recommendations as to what parts you can improve on for better plain language. Thanks for including those links in chat, Marcella. So yes, accessibility is part of what we do now today as public servants. C'est important d'en apprendre davantage et d'arrêter de penser que c'est juste lié à l'informatique, au site web, aux personnes qui sont aveugles ou malentendantes et que c'est pas notre expertise. C'est notre responsabilité de développer cette expertise-là. Oh, my dog's now lying next to me. He's interested too. Tip number 7. Demander de la rétroaction après notre projet, notre travail, notre note de briefage. Ça peut être ça. On prend le réflexe de demander de la rétroaction. Ça peut être très, très simple. Un petit message, un petit courriel pour demander du feedback, des rétroactions de quelqu'un. Ça peut être un sondage. Si c'était un projet peut-être d'envergure, vous voulez par défaut aller chercher la rétroaction le plus possible. Alors, comme j'ai dit, ça peut être un petit courriel, ça peut être un sondage, ça peut être des tests d'utilisabilité, ça peut être différentes choses, ça peut être, I was at, oh gosh, it was a long time ago now, but I was in, I think it was the Montreal airport, probably around this time last year, and on Twitter, I put a picture of 3 buttons like this in the Montreal airport bathroom. When I was leaving, it said, "How was your experience today?" And you just selected the smiley face, the indifferent face, and the sad face to say how that experience was. That is a very valuable piece of feedback. And when you analyze that, you can say, 50% of people between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. had an indifferent face. So maybe we should look into increasing the cleanliness of our washrooms at that hour, right? So it can just be the click of a button. In this week's apolitical email, that's exactly what I did. There's 4 faces, and the question is, how are we doing so far? Please let us know. No matter the approach, simple or complex in terms of the method you use to get feedback, get it. Because that is what is going to tell you how you're doing. Even if it's a briefing note to your deputy minister or to your ADM, take a minute and say, hey, I would really like to get feedback on that briefing note, because I'd like to know if it met your expectations, and if you have any suggestions for next time, how it could be better. And they may say, well, you know what? You wrote 4 pages, which is really great. There's lots of information, but I really only needed, this paragraph. This is really what I wanted, or I prefer things bullet point or whatever. But the next time, you're just going to be that much better because you got the feedback. So work that into your habits to not just rely on how you think you did, but really get the feedback to demonstrate how you did. La rétroaction continue dans différents formats. Ça peut être très simple, complexe dans votre méthode, mais allez chercher le pouls. Allez chercher plus d'informations de la part de l'utilisateur, que l'utilisateur soit un citoyen ou un collègue ou votre gestionnaire. La rétroaction fait partie de la culture numérique. Ce n'est pas nous les décideurs. On doit avoir quelque chose sur quoi se reposer pour savoir comment s'améliorer. Alors, du feedback, de la rétroaction. Number 8, learn your data. So this one, some people are like, I'm not a data expert. I don't get excited about data. I hear ya. That used to be me, but I've learned to love data. We're kind of data junkies in my team because there has to be a number attached to just about everything we do. We measure stuff. Maybe it's measuring the start and end times of a project and specific tasks, and using that data to measure or compare to the next project, or to find weak points or areas of improvement. It could be leveraging something like Google Analytics to, I don't know, you gave a presentation and there's X number of people at the beginning, and halfway through, whoops, everybody dropped off. So it gives you insight. What was happening at that moment? How could we change these statistics? Maybe it's about in a presentation or your next thing, add a piece of data to it. Do some data storytelling. Enable data-driven decision-making. Tell the story, but and there's sites like open.canada.ca that you can go to. Open Data Portal. There are tons of statistics and a ton of information you can go get there that's open by default, and that can tell you a lot depending on what your department is, who your citizens are, who your users are, what you're working on. But find these pieces of data and include them in the story you're telling or the project you're building. Help inform what you're working on through the data. One concrete action for this that I can share is I think it's this week, we just launched a new course at the Digital Academy called A Self-Directed Guide to Understanding Data. And one of the first, it's self-paced online, it's free if you're a public servant, it's on JC campus. And one of the first things, the activities in that course is a data persona assessment tool. So you answer these questions and it spits out your data persona. What that does is it tells you a little bit about your role with respect to data, because there's so many facets to that. There's, data governance and data visualization and data collection and data scrubbing and data. But learn more about what your persona is with respect to data, and take the time to go read your department's data strategy. Do you know where it is? Have you ever checked it out? Take the time to go read it, and maybe you will find ways that you can help your department, help support your department's data strategy. And, bosses like numbers, they like data. So start incorporating that. Gone are the days we know what's best. We can make these decisions. I don't need anybody to tell me how to make these decisions. Wrong. So we need to start relying on more and more and more data to help inform our decisions, our projects, our priorities, all of that. So I really, really encourage you to explore this more, and who knows, maybe you'll become a data junkie as well. We'll see. Number 9 on the list, testez vos connaissances en cybersécurité. La sécurité fait partie de notre ADN au gouvernement. Peu importe le ministère dans lequel on travaille, c'est aussi une responsabilité qui appartient pas juste aux responsables de TI. Ça appartient à nous tous. Alors, peu importe où on travaille, nos responsabilités, on se doit d'améliorer notre littératie numérique, digital literacy. Vous avez peut-être entendu parler de ça, puis une partie de la littératie numérique, c'est aussi de savoir détecter des risques par rapport à de l'information qui est protégée ou qui est privée et comment éviter ces risques-là. Alors, là, il y a un exemple sur Google. You can Google phishing quiz. So phishing not as in catching a fish, but en termes de hameçonnage. Mais ça, c'en est un qui est gratuit, qui est disponible en anglais et en français. Vous pouvez faire un petit quiz pour voir votre niveau d'aptitude de ce côté-là. On utilise de plus en plus de technologies, surtout pendant la période de COVID, et on se doit d'être plus intelligent, plus alerte, plus habile à détecter, je vais-tu cliquer sur le lien? Should I click on the link? Should I open the app? And sometimes it looks real, you know. I get all of those emails from Netflix and all the other things that say, you know, your password is expired or your account has been hacked. Well, the first thing I do is at the top where it says Netflix from Netflix, I click on Netflix and I see it's like ABC, you know, whatever.com, and it's like not Netflix at all. So take the time to test your skills with regards to cybersecurity and be part of the solution and not the problem, especially these days where we're all working remotely and there is more risk and there's more hacking going on. There's a lot more hacking. We don't hear about it, but it's there. And so take the time to flex those muscles as well. Number 10 is maybe less tangible. Maybe that's why I put it. Is that a tangerine or a clementine? But it's to challenge your mindset. You know, we talk about being digital. Being digital also means having a digital mindset. And if you were listening to all of the previous calls to action that I showed you today, and if your first thought was, yeah, but, or I don't know how to, or that doesn't apply to my job, or that looks complicated, then this is for you. I'm talking to you because you need to change that mindset. You need to open up your willingness to be curious, to try something out, to experiment, and to be uncomfortable. Because it's not like you're going to turn on Trello and you're going to think automatically, this is making my life so much easier. No, it's going to take some time to figure out the tool. It's going to maybe take some time to Google, how do I, you know, turn on the accessibility checker in PowerPoint? And that's okay. That means you're learning something. It means you're trying something. It means that you're possibly discovering something that with a little bit of practice can make your life easier, that can make your work better. And all you need to do is be willing to try, be willing to adapt, be willing to have an open mind. And as I said, I never said digital means necessarily faster. Generally speaking, it does mean better. So take the time to, and thinking back to that first slide, right? If you were part of the people who are like, oh, I recognize maybe 20, 25% of these icons, these logos, then maybe that means that you need to take the time on a personal front, on a professional front to explore these and to see how they can serve you better. To bring these back to your team to say, let's try this. Let's see how this works and not knock it down at the first click. Mindset is hugely important. Along with this mindset topic, trust is very important in digital teams. What else? Agility, you know, all of those buzzwords, they're not really buzzwords, they're real. They're what binds, you know, this digital topic. But it does start with your own mindset and your own willingness to try it out. And yes, there are departments, I feel your pain. You're going to say, but I work at D&D and Trello is blocked. Okay, but chances are you have a phone or a personal device or something that you can go check this out. And if it's something that you find value in, there's two things you can do. You can call up your IT friends and say, you know, is there any way we can unblock this tool? Is there another tool that's similar that I can use that, you know, passes the test? Or like I said, where there's a will, there's a way. You can also do this on your fridge. You can do it on your desktop. We always recommend as much as possible that it be something that's easily shareable, which on your fridge and on your desktop is not. But there are different tools out there. And so make friends with your IT people. I used to like bring them chocolate every time I went to Ottawa because I called them up often and found workarounds or found other solutions that they were comfortable with as well. And so again, if your default position is, nah, we can't do that in our department. Well, maybe start, you know, if these digital standards that come from TBS, they apply to us all. So let's find a way and let's stop stopping at each roadblock and throwing in the gloves. Okay, where am I at? Actually, okay, bonus. I also have a bonus slide for you because as you know, I encouraged you to keep learning. Si c'est des sujets qui vous intéressent, je vous encourage à regarder nos cours qui sont offerts à l'Académie du numérique. We have brand new courses. Some were just launched this week, but we already have digital in practice for all public servants who want to learn more about the digital standards, who want to learn more about this whole digital topic and how it applies to them in their job. We have Discover Digital for Leadership that also was recently launched that you can send your bosses to. And we have Discover Data that was launched as well. As I said, the course code is I561. We also have on busrides.ca, tagerenbus.ca, on a plusieurs opportunités de micro-apprentissage pour apprendre sur ces mêmes sujets. We have the 12 days of data that we launched in December that was quite popular and very digestible for the average public servant who wants to learn more about data. We have Discover Agile that's coming. We have Discover Design that's coming, all virtual or self-paced. We have a ton of self-paced courses that we launched also on topics like design thinking and, you know, all those things. So Marcella, you could also, oh, there we go. So Digital Academy page, it links to the Discover series page where you can get all the information on this. I'm not trying to sell our courses. I'm just giving you a bonus that you can do in your spare time, which I'm sure you have a lot of these days. You know. But if you want to learn more about these different topics, then this is a great place to start, and it's free. So I encourage you to go check them out. There you go. Hey, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, I'm all over the place. If you want to contact me, I'm on Slack, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on GC Collab, GC Connects, LinkedIn, all of those things. So I'm going to, oh yeah, bonus. I don't know if this slide is, or the deck is sent out to folks after the fact, but on each slide, I'd put a few icons of tools that I recommend specific to each one of the actions. So some of you may be saying, yeah, but I don't know what the icon means. So you actually have a slide of our favorite tools at the Digital Academy. And so you can try out those different tools if you wish to. I'm not saying try them all, learn them all. No, find a select few, start small, start there, and figure out what works for you, what doesn't. This is a great tool. I hate this tool. Sure. Or, safer tools, whatever it is. But the key message here is explore, try, and adopt what you love and what makes your life at work easier. So these are some of our favorites. And I think I forgot to mention also when I was talking about retrospectives, probably, Figma, which is almost in the middle of the slide, is also a great tool that has a free version and a paid version that allows you to, that one might be more for prototypes, but Figma, Miro, Mural, Canva, those are all tools that we use regularly at the Digital Academy. I'm going to be quiet now and I'm going to take some questions. Ça me fait plaisir de prendre des questions si vous en avez. Si vous voulez plus d'exemples ou si vous voulez que je parle d'un outil, ça va me faire plaisir.
Awesome. Thanks, Isa. So amazing presentation. I think a great explanation of, these tools and digital literacy overall. Certainly, I think this last slide will be very helpful to everyone in terms of understanding what some of these things are and making a start on figuring out what actually you should be using in your work. But of all the digital skills that you showed us today, if I had to choose one or two, if I was kind of starting relatively fresh in terms of my digital literacy, where do you think I should start?
So I would probably definitely start with Kanban. So Kanban it's a project management approach, but it's a way to help you chunk out, I'll say, your work and visualize your work, right? If your backlog is like, 2 screens long, then you've got to raise a flag and ask for help or change the expectation somewhere. But it allows you to organize your work, to visualize your work, to collaborate easily, to bring, your work together. There's a lot of documents or a lot of links or a lot of this or a lot of that. So definitely and like I said, it can be a personal Kanban for me, myself, and I stuff, or it can be a project Kanban for collaboration. That's definitely one. And I would say, so they're very intertwined in our team's culture, but the whole aspect of learning to do things smaller. So again, no matter what you're working on, it doesn't have to be a website, an app, or a digital thing, but stop and reflect on what is the smallest thing I can create with the least effort that I can put in front of someone and get feedback. You might have heard another buzzword called MVP, minimal viable product. Well, that's what it is. The smallest thing I can create with just enough insight or potential to put in front of someone and get some feedback and know right away I'm on the right path with this, or oh God, yeah, that wasn't what I expected, and I'm going to change my course, or to get other great ideas or feedback. That, I'm telling you, is priceless, because you never question if what you're doing is the right thing. Even if it's a briefing note or a whatever, you're on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that, with this learning series, the approach we've taken from the start was really that minimal viable product. And then you figure out and you iterate and you change and you revise and you figure out what will meet the needs of the users. And certainly it's kind of helped us to be able to launch something early on with a sort of shell of an idea, and then build out from there as to like what people want to see and how to deliver that most effectively.
I see Jen's asking in chat, how do you find the time to be on all of these things? I'm not. The key there is try them out. Find, oh, I love this thing. So put it in your back pocket of tools for this type of task. And then, you know, find a Swiss Army knife of tools that you like and that work for you and that help your productivity, and stick with those. I'm not trying to overwhelm you with all of those tools and tell you, you need to learn about all of these things. Be curious about them. Get some, you know, in our team, where when we discover something, hey, this is really cool, this is awesome, we should try it out in our next retrospective or whatever, and we explore them together. And sometimes we're like, nah, I prefer this tool, so let's stick with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see that we're at the end of our time. So I will say that a huge thank you to you, Isa, for sharing your experience and your expertise in this area, and talking to everyone about how they can be more digital. Je vais mentionner que les présentations, ça va être sur notre site GC Wiki. So the presentation will be put on our GC Wiki site, so you can reference that after. And our next event is on Thursday, October 29th. That is at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is with Canadian icons Hal Johnson and Joanne McLeod of Body Break. And then we will be, you know, getting physical. So it will include a talk about diversity, inclusion, and wellness. So join us for that, and you can find the links to that on our GC Wiki site as well. Alors, merci à toutes les personnes qui nous ont joints aujourd'hui, et puis merci de partager. Il faut penser votre expérience pour le série d'apprentissage virtuel. So thank you very much, Isa, and thank you to our participants across the country for joining us today, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Salut tout le monde.